the Jets and the Bengals. Let's just talk about this game next. So we didn't have an international game, so we don't have an early game to get to here. So we'll go to Jets and the Bengals. This one was in Cincinnati. New York Jets win this one by a score of 39-38. Very funny that of all of the games that people could have picked to be the most entertaining, the barn burner, the closest one, the biggest shootout, guarantee nobody would have told you this would have been the case. And my survivor pool is evidence to that with all the people that picked the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday. Top 5 graded players that we had for the New York Jets getting their first win of the season and Aaron Glenn's first win as a head coach. Running back Isaiah Davis at the top of the list with a 79.7. Tight end Mason Taylor a 75.2. Tight end Jeremy Rucker right behind him with a 75.0. Wide receiver Isaiah Williams with a 74.8. And then cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr. a 73.2. Justin Fields in this game on the heels of his owner going after him, taking the shots earlier in the week. It's unnecessary. There's no reason for this, Dalton. Comes out, plays a great game, 77.8 overall. Cincinnati side of things, their running back Chase Brown, back-to-back really nice weeks for Chase Brown here. 87.0 was the grade that he had in this one. Wide receiver Jamar Chase an 82.5. Tight end Noah Fant an 81.2. Center Ted Karras with a 76.4. And then running back Samaje Perine rounding it out at number 5 with a 75.6. Joe Flacco in this game a 69.1. Dalton, the stat that told the story.
Look, and for people wondering where Breece Hall might be there, his overall grade just below those guys, 69.1. The rushing grade is 75. Breece Hall and throwing the winning touchdown, of course. Breece Hall did have a really good day himself, just missed that top 5 as well. But no, I mean, the Jets just got raging hot in the last quarter and a half of this game. Their last 4 drives, taking out the kneel down at the end. They ran 29 plays. They scored 26 points. They had 9.4 yards per play. And just on those last 4 drives, amongst those 29 plays, 16 carries for 175 yards. This is, again, when the Jets have looked good this year, the rare moments they have, it's because they've been able to run the football with Breece Hall, with Justin Fields a little bit, with Isaiah Davis, who came on and had a big day, especially in the receiving game as well. And, you know, you just look at the momentum that they got, and they made the Bengals continue to have to play a perfect game on offense because the Bengals defense just continues to let them down in big spots. I mean, even last week, they didn't beat Pittsburgh because of their defense. It was a couple plays, a DJ Turner interception early in the game sticks out, but they also gave the Steelers a lead within the last 2 minutes, right? And Joe Flacco had to bring him back. So whether it's Joe Burrow, Joe Flacco, Joe Montana, Joe DiMaggio, it really doesn't matter. The Bengals have the same story going here where their offense has to play perfect games for them to win. So the Jets, they caught fire in the second half. They got momentum. The 2-point conversions worked. The trick plays were working. It took everything they had. But kind of like Aaron Glenn said, it's just the grit that they've played with in a handful of these games finally paid off for them, right? We saw them come back in the Bucs game. The Steelers game in week 1 was tight. You know, this was just one where they were able to finish the job here, and the offense got red hot down the stretch.
Yeah, and it was always, you know, you looked at their record of 0-7 going in this one, and you could say, like, man, they should at least have one. I mean, there's those 2 games that they played earlier this year where you go, okay, maybe we're not even giving them both of those games. We're at least giving them one. Like, you can give them one of those games. So them being winless through 7 weeks probably didn't tell the entire story of what this Jets team was capable of. And obviously they go out and they play a pretty good football game and they get their first win of the season here in Cincinnati. I thought that Fields' passing grade under pressure in this game specifically, and then really tying that into how the Jets' offensive line played, was really good because through the first couple of weeks in the season, because what was their first 3 games? What was the Jets' first 3 games?
Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Was Miami the third one?
Hold on, I'll find it in a second.
Miami may have been the third.
So it was Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and then they played the Bucs.
Oh, the Bucs game was third.
So you look at those. You look at 2 of those 3 games, and you say, all right, Bills game, they weren't going to win. We're not going to win the Bills game. But close in that Steelers game, really shot themselves in the foot, didn't get a win there. The Bucs game, that's another one where it's like I'm not really in the business of saying that they should have won that game, but they did have the opportunity to at the end. So at least they were there at the very end of that game and could have potentially won that football game. I think at the beginning of the season, their offensive line specifically was playing better. And then you get into the stretch of, okay, like the Dolphins game, the Cowboys game, the Broncos game, the Panthers game. Like the offensive line just was not playing as well as it had earlier in the season, although I think last week they were starting to play a little bit better. This week they definitely played a lot better. I think specifically in the run game, they were able to move things a little bit better. And then when it came to neutralizing the Bengals pass rush, which I understand, I'm a draft guy. I'm looking at teams through a draft lens. I know that the Bengals need better pass rush anyways. So it's not like they're one of the fiercest pass rush teams in the NFL, but specifically in this game, Justin Fields, 85.6 passing grade under pressure. Now, previously, the first 7 weeks, 33.6 passing grade under pressure. So that is a massive difference of just how you are handling yourself when there is pressure. And to be honest with you, there wasn't a lot of it. The Jets' offensive line only allowed 2 pressures all game themselves. Now, Fields was pressured 7 times in this game, but again, just to give you a little bit of peel back of the curtain of like how we do things here at PFF, I don't know, Dalton, you might be able to give me a little bit more information here. I don't know if there's a certain like second point, like if it's over like 2.75 seconds or if it's over 3 seconds, but essentially if you're an offensive lineman and you block your guy for whatever it is, let's just say like 3 seconds, and then the defensive lineman finally beats you, we don't count that against the offensive lineman for a pressure. You did your job. Realistically, you stayed in front of that player for whatever a reasonable time is. And if the quarterback chose to hold on to the ball longer than he probably should have, or just for an extended period of time, that still counts as a pressure from the defensive lineman. But we don't really fault the offensive lineman for that because they did their job on that play. You can't realistically expect an offensive lineman to say, well, if the quarterback's going to hold on to the ball for 5 seconds, the offensive lineman has to block for 5 seconds. Sure, in theory, that's what we would all love. But is it realistic from a grades perspective? No. So all of that to say, the Jets' offensive line, though there were 7 pressures against Justin Fields in this game, we only credited the offensive line for giving up 2 of them. So that's an excellent job by the Jets' offensive line to not only mitigate the pressure, but then even when Justin Fields was under pressure, he handled it well as well. So to me, that was the big stat that told the story, simply because in previous weeks, Fields has unfortunately taken those situations and made them catastrophic for his team. Turnover-worthy plays, not converting it, not passing the ball where he should have. And yeah, like I said, like sometimes just coughing the ball up entirely. So I thought that was the biggest stat that told the story.
Yeah, and a big part of that, it really says a lot about the Bengals, because in previous weeks, too, you talk about the Denver Broncos game. They have an elite pass rush, right? Or the Steelers game in week 1, they have an elite pass rush, where this game, Trey Hendrickson didn't play in the second half either due to injury, and you could feel that as the game was going on, that, oh, there's just, without Trey, there is nobody getting home for the Bengals. And, well, we knew that would be the case anyway, and, you know, and you were talking about the draft side of it, and Shamar Stewart being kind of a project as a pass rusher, but that's really just it. The Bengals don't have any other answers other than Hendrickson. That was the case last year. They had him leading the league in sacks, and yet they were still in the bottom 6 or 7 of pass rush grade because they don't have a whole unit like a team like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or, you know, some of these other big-time pass rush teams do. So you lose that guy, all of a sudden it's non-existent, and Justin Fields gets real comfortable. And to be honest, Trevor, even if we had charged the offensive line with all 7 of those pressures, even 7 out of 37, that's pretty darn good. You're talking about less than 20% that he said. That's what you look for, is if that number is 20% or below, or even below 25% that a quarterback is pressured in a given game, that's an outstanding game from a pass protection point. And the fact that the offensive line only got charged with 2 pressures all day, outstanding stuff, from, especially in a game where they were down 2 scores for most of it.
The Bengals specific, by the way, is there like a certain like second mark, or is it sort of just the nuance of course, sort of like we just watched the play and we're like, okay, this is the realistic point of where you did your job here, and now the offense, or now the defensive lineman is getting by you at a point where we felt like you still did your job on this play.
There's some nuance to it. There can be some gray area, but generally we really start to loosen the reins around 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you get to 3.5, we're very rarely going to downgrade you.
Sure.
And then there's also the combination of sometimes, you know, you get a quarterback who steps into a place in the pocket where he shouldn't, or just bails outside of a clean pocket, where, you know, if he bails outside, spins outside the tackle, and there could still be a pressure, but he created that for himself. That's a moment where you would charge it to a quarterback. So I would say in general, we start to really loosen the reins on blaming offensive linemen around that 3-second mark and beyond 3.5 for sure. But there's also factors where the quarterback does play into that, depending on where he goes and if he should have stepped up or if he should have bailed. And, you know, it can be kind of in concert with those 2 things.
I'm always going to lean on Dalton for a lot of the grading side of things, because you came up through the grading tree of what is this company. So I'm always going to lean on him for that, for those specifics. Most disappointing for me, the Bengals in general, but the linebackers, I think specifically, against outside zone. So that's something that I feel like the Jets have wanted to do more of this season, is just get to the sideline, block things up really well, and give those running backs a crease or a lane, whether it's outside of where the corner is or maybe inside of where the corner is, whatever, just to have a rushing lane up the sideline to use that athleticism and that speed once you get some momentum going. It hasn't really worked to the level they have wanted it to so far this season. I think it absolutely worked against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, 27.7 team run defense grade against outside zone specifically. So it's an area where the Jets have wanted to have more of their production, I would say, rooted in sort of those to the sideline runs, and they were able to do that this week. And I felt as though the linebackers for the Bengals, they're trying to get more athletic there, right? Barrett Carter's on the field, really a smaller linebacker, but a very athletic linebacker. Demetrius Knight, the whole reason why you draft him from South Carolina is the dude can fly. He's got a lot of speed to him. And I think the reason why, Logan Wilson hasn't played nearly as much this year and they're sort of going away from him is because he's just not quite the athlete those other guys are. So I think they've wanted to lean more into speed at the second level in the linebacker spot. It came back to bite them this week because they were, though they had the athleticism to defend things like outside zone, they really just, they weren't able to take on the offensive linemen, the pullers, the lead blockers the way that they needed to, and instead they're giving up a lot. Their average depth of tackle in this game was over 4 yards, and anytime that's the case, you're letting an offensive line in the run game kind of just walk all the way down the field. And you're just making it way too easy for them. So to me, most disappointing was just how the Bengals defended the run in this game.
The linebackers especially. No, those two guys, look, they're athletic, and one day they should be good players, assuming the development comes along. But it's the fact that they're starting two rookies at that position, and you can see the lack of vision and the lack of experience there, even when it comes to defending play action or leverage on certain pass plays and things like that. The linebacker, to me, the two disappointing things are the linebackers, like you just mentioned. When you take their linebackers combined, a 43 PFF grade. And then the other one here is just the Bengals, the late game situation here. I mean, to me, Zach Taylor called a really good game offensively until the last two drives. And I know the first play of this second to last drive might have been on Flacco because it was an RPO, but three straight passes when they're still up 6 points, just under 8 minutes left, three straight passes, 2 incompletions, and a sack, barely take a minute off the clock when you still had a lead. Punt it away, the Jets take a lead, and then it just felt like they were out of sorts on that last drive. They were in the same position they were in last week, but this time more out of sorts. Running the ball on 2nd and 10 when you're running out of time and you need to get in field goal range. And then the Jets, for just a handful of plays in this game, including the very last one. And, I've heard people ask, okay, why on the very last play could they not get the ball to Chase or Higgins? And Higgins only had one catch the entire day. The Jets finally decided, okay, we're just going to bracket both of these guys,
right,
and make them somebody else. If Yoshivas beats us, fine. If Tanner Hudson beats us, fine. If one of the backs beats us, fine. But the last two drives, I really thought just situationally, especially with the Bengals ran for around 8 yards a clip in this game. And then the second to last drive, when all they got to do, they kick a field goal on that second to last drive, they win the ball game. They're up 9, it's over. The Jets won't come back from that. But they left the door open on the second to last drive, and then it seemed like they were out of sorts on the final drive, just almost maybe shocked that they still had to come back and win this game like they did last week. So don't love the way the Bengals handled the late game situation here. But at the end of the day, their defense cost them this game.
Yeah.
They're just not good enough on defense, and especially without Trey Hendrickson for the whole second half, we're just doing this again with the Bengals, no matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah, if you score 38 points and you lose, I mean, there's no way around it. You're pissed.
Yeah.
Like there's no like, well, we did. You scored 38 points in an NFL game and you lost. That's it. I mean, people are obviously going to be mad, and they should be mad, but thrill of a game. For us watching, 39-38.
You're telling me it was quite a mood there in the stadium just as it ended too. It was as some others in here can tell you, it was not the best mood. It's not the best mood around Cincinnati right now.
No, and I think everybody's just frustrated with everything that's going on. And I even asked the guys who produce the show, who are Cincinnati guys, I was like, "Is Joe Burrow coming back?" And Eli was like, "He better not." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep him off the field, especially." With him being the competitor that he is, and it's Zach Taylor's job.
This is the thing. Every week they can score. You've got those two guys on the outside. In the last couple of weeks, they've run the ball really well.
Joe Burrow's just going to play both sides like Sunshine in Remember the Titans.
Well, they got
second half of the game, he played linebacker and he's playing.
They got to get Jamar Chase or somebody with Travis Hunter's trainer.
That's
or something.
true. Little NFL street style.
Like
little
that,
NFL street style. You're just playing both sides of the ball.
I don't. They're especially you mentioned the linebackers. It was tough to watch in person.
And I want to be clear. Like that was always going to be a thing, right? Both these guys are young. They're fast. If you read both of their scouting reports, they both read as if this game is possible.
But it was also supposed to be originally Logan Wilson and Dimitri. And now Wilson's been sort of benched. He played, I think, 20-ish snaps yesterday.
Right.
But it was always supposed to be Logan Wilson bringing these guys along. Or even an Oren Burks, who I think played one snap.
Right.
Yes, he played one snap yesterday. I go, just having two rookies out there, I think that factor is really hurting them.
It is. This is a learning game for them, unfortunately, as fans would see it.